Ah, yes. The moon. It controls the tides of the oceans. Some animals use the moon to navigate and sense when it's time to mate, based on the amount of moonlight that they feel. And on full moon nights, furries don their fursuits and abscond into the wilderness, praying that one day they will transform into something more fitting of their eccentric personalities. A furry werewolf, perhaps? Who knows? What's up, guys? Wish.com version of Distortion 2 here, and in this Elden Ring video, I'm going to ask, and I'm going to answer the question, can you beat Elden Ring using the powers of the moon? Now that begs the question, what exactly will I be using in a run like this? Well, here's the rules that I set out for myself. First, I can only use weapons, sorceries, and skills that have the word moon in them or are related to the moon lore in-game. I'll explain that last part in a second. So when I was browsing through the possibilities, the most obvious ones that I came up with were the Moon Veil, the Dark Moon Greatsword, both of which also have the word moon in their Ashes of War, and the Crescent Moon Axe for the weapons. Spoiler alert, I didn't use the Crescent Moon Axe at all this run, so we can basically just count that out now. I completely forgot about that, honestly. For sorceries, I was left with Ranni's Dark Moon, Renala's Full Moon, and Udula's Moonblade. Now, let me explain what I mean by items related to the moon lore in Elden Ring. I'm not a lore expert by any means, I don't think anybody is, honestly, so I just looked at item descriptions for a few things, and I made an executive decision to use them or not based on the following criteria. Whether or not they have a strong relationship with Renala or the Academy of Raya Lucaria in some capacity. So that means I was able to use the Carrion Regal Scepter, because this is literally the staff that Renala uses, for example. In addition, I allowed myself to have one single Raya Lucaria sorcery equipped at any given moment because they don't have moon in the name, but I guess they could technically be moon related because Renala is the head of Raya Lucaria. I hope you understand what I'm trying to say here. Now, if you feel as though I am cheating or bending my own rules that I created at like 1 o'clock in the morning a month ago because I'm using Raya Lucaria sorceries, then you must simply cope and or cry about it for the next 30 minutes. And finally, I must beat every single Remembrance boss for this run to be considered a success. And all of this is happening in New Game Plus 2 on my first and only character that I have ever created in the Dark Souls universe. Yep, that's right. I'm a rookie. Now that all of that preliminary crap is out of the way, let's get into what you all came here for. That's right. You came back here to check out my absolute hunk of a character and to steal his hairstyle because that man bun that you grew out doesn't quite look like what you were going for. Nah, I'm just kidding. So, first of all, I had to visit the Queen of Feet so I could respec into a suitable stat spread. Now, here's what I came up with. I'm not really one of those people that actually pays attention to, like, optimization of stats, so I basically just dumped a ton of stats into intelligence because I have enough brain cells to understand that I need that stat in order to do a lot of damage for this build. Next up is the most important part of the build, the drip. I don't think you're ready for this, dude.
Oh, that's hot. That's hot.
Now that is what the doctor ordered, my friend. I'm looking tight as fuck right now. Now that my outfit is absolutely laced with immaculate drip, I think it's time that we get this show on the road. Before I headed into New Game Plus 2, I decided to start out with a Power Stance Dark Moon Greatsword setup with those talismans that went by a little bit too fast for me to read off, but you can just pause the video and go back and look at them if you want. And so I began my third journey into Elden Ring. I beat the ever-loving snot out of the Grafted Scion, and then I jumped off a cliff in order to feel the sweet release of death. Now, I've made it a tradition to test out the build on the Limgrave Tree Sentinel before heading up to Margit. I was feeling pretty good about this build, and pretty obvious why. Now, I will give a short disclaimer. I'm kinda ass at Elden Ring, and it gets worse at the start of my runs because I usually go like a month between playthroughs, so excuse the rustiness. I don't remember it being this bad, though. It's like I was playing while I was drunk and sleep-deprived at the same time. Now, one thing I completely forgot about until much further into the run was that Ranni and Renala's moon sorceries reduce magic damage resistance for a brief time after they hit, which explains why my buff charged R2 friggin' nuked Margit's health bar. Something doesn't feel right. That's what it is. Ench is wearing fucking Axe body spray. You boys ready for this shit, huh? You ready for this? World's first hitless Stormville main gate coming at you like, oh yeah, big dodge serpentine in this hoe. Oh my god, I've got 99 agility and balance in FIFA, bro. Alright, we won't count that hit. Alright, just take this dude out, and then take this last guy out up top. Take out this last guy up top. take out this last guy up. I should probably mention now that even though I did set that parameter that I could swap out the final spell slot at any time, I basically only stuck to 3 spells for the entire playthrough. Before Godric, I decided to use Terra Magica, but it was basically between this, Comet, and Star Shower for like 99.9% of the run. Now, the Godric fight was probably the easiest thing I've ever had to do in any video game besides the time where I mowed down all those civilians in the No Russian mission on Modern Warfare 2 back in the day. Wait, you mean to tell me you didn't actually have to kill anybody in that mission? You could have just walked through without... Ah, shit. Anyway, it took me just 2 hits from both moons, then 1 Moonlight Greatsword charge or 2 before I got Godric to circumcise himself, and during Hanukkah no less. I managed to get a couple hits of Adula's Moonblade off, which procced a tiny case of Frostbite onto Rick the God. Now, Godric is a sitting duck during the start of his second phase, but if you've been around the channel long enough, you know that doesn't mean a damn thing when I'm on the sticks. But I had it all under control. Just a few more hits, and Godric was down. In total, the fight lasted like 46 seconds, which is plenty of time to get the job done in my opinion. Some women even take it as a compliment if you finish that quickly. Subscribe to my channel for more cringy sex jokes. Really seems to be my forte. I have no idea what I was doing here, staring out over the cliff face. I think I was trying to get screenshots for the thumbnail if I had to guess. I honestly have no idea. After getting the second half of the Dectus medallion, because I forgot to record myself getting the first part of it, I decided that I wanted to do Selen's quest in this playthrough since I completely forgot about it in each of my first playthroughs. I just wanted to get those armor sets and to get the Star of Ruin spell, but mostly for the armor sets. Speaking of quest lines, I also started Mr. Alopecia's quest because I still didn't have the Bull Goat armor and it was really bugging me. Man, open world games sure are fun, aren't they? Next, I found my way into Raya Lucaria. I fucking got in Raya Lucaria. Believe it or not, I actually did make my way into Raya Lucaria eventually, and I found myself face to face with everyone's favorite red-haired animal. Not you, Ed Sheeran. He may resist magic, but he cannot resist those femboys at the bar. Damn, he just like me for real. Wait, who said that? Anyway, let's get back to the fight before the music makes me lose control. I won. Because I'm friggin' nice at this game. That's why. Moongrum, how you doing, buddy? You ready to get that ass beat again, bro? I have no idea what happened, but apparently FromSoft must have buffed Moongrum in a hotfix or something, because he actually almost killed me that time. I was interested to see how the Renala fight would go since she has a huge magic resistance, so I added some defensive talismans to prepare for a longer fight. After I got my toes nibbled on by a political science major, I proceeded to have the single worst Renala fight that has ever been witnessed. Things seemed a little off from the very beginning. I had my Dark Moon Greatsword and my Moon Veil equipped for some reason, the reason being something that I can't really remember. God knows what the hell I was thinking at the time. And it just seemed like I was doing way less physical damage than I should have been. And then it hit me. When I respec before the start of the run, I put the bare minimum amount of stats into dexterity that you need in order to use the Moon Veil and the Dark Moon Greatsword, so that means my damage now is leaning very heavily towards magic damage, which Renala is barely affected by. Now, of course, I got her down to phase 2 because who can't do that, but I was concerned. Now, to make a long story short, I ran out of HP flasks, the Bloodhound Knight eventually put me out of my misery, and then I went downstairs to enjoy a bowl of Frosted Flakes to take my mind off of what just happened. Not sponsored, by the way. I then decided that enough was enough, so I went to Old Hugh in the Round Table to upgrade a second Moon Veil that I got in my last playthrough. I'll leave a link in the description below so you can watch it. RIP Flame of the Redmanes. You'll understand if you watch that video. Now for Renala Part 2, I was happy to see that running 2 katanas is still a tried and true method to get what you need. It's like a hoagie from Wawa. Solid, if not spectacular. You know what you're gonna get every time you go there. I got Renala down to her second phase, as one does when they have more than 4 functioning brain cells, and I ran into a really weird interaction with her moon sorcery. Has anyone else ever seen it take that long? Upon further inspection, it seems as though that I am just slightly stupid and that is the normal time that it takes for her to use her full moon sorcery. And I think that this run showed me that I was still spoiled from the last run I did with the Black Knife, and that I also have no idea how to create a viable stat spread for builds in this game. Can someone that understands this game more, like, tell me how the hell I didn't just get nuked by her comment right there? I would have ended this fight about 4 minutes earlier if it wasn't for that damn Blood Hunter over there. Now, I condensed the last part of the fight because Renala was on a pube hair of health left, and I physically could not get to her because she was spamming spells like a PvP player, and her summons were giving me fucking heart palpitations, but, you know, after about 666 minutes, I finally got the better of Renala in what turned out to be a pivotal point in the run. I realized that I needed another damn respec, and I was ashamed to admit it to myself. Now, I forgot to record it, but I basically just took some stat points out of Intelligence, Mind, Endurance, and Vigor, so I ended up with about 40 Dexterity, if I'm not mistaken, after I did that. Upon another further inspection, it appears as though I'm still a dumbass because I actually did record it. I gave myself 39 Dexterity to be exact. And I know I didn't record Patch's entire questline, mostly because that bald bastard rubs me the wrong way, but I did in fact get to Tragoth and successfully uninstalled his life. After that, I figured that now was a good time to fight General Radahn, so that's exactly what I went to do. I got into the arena, and I actually dodged the first arrow this time. Now, after my subpar performance in the last run, I was ready for war this time around. This time, I wasn't focusing on trying to break his poise with Flame of the Redmanes, RIP by the way, so I was honestly just doing a lot more damage by fighting him straight up. He hit me with a gravitational suck, but that gave me just the opportunity to annihilate him with the Moonveil. I got 3 big hits off, and then he went into a Champagne Supernova phase. When he landed, I decided to use Ronnie's Dark Moon so I could lower his magic resistance, and just pick him off from a distance. And that's just what I did. One more Dark Moon, which also has the added effect of absorbing and nullifying magic projectiles, and I managed to beat Radahn on my first try for 2 runs in a row now. I advanced Sellen's questline a little bit more, and I got to the point where I finally found Lusat and I got the Stars of Ruin Sorcery. I tested it off camera against some regular enemies, and I honestly thought it kinda sucked. Very anticlimactic. Up next is Loretta Shade and Karya Manor, which I'm gonna speed up because the real Loretta comes later in the video anyway, and I don't find this fight very interesting to break it down and provide commentary on it, I'm not gonna lie. Not that I could anyway, considering the footage is sped up by 400% and I can't comprehend what I'm even seeing on my screen right now, but, you know, it is what it is. I hate that I know what Rule 34 is, especially considering that she has 4 hands. Now, after that, I finished off Sellen's questline, and I ended up choosing the ending where you help her kill Jaren because I wanted to get all the drip that you get from this ending, so we get the eccentric set, Sellen gets morphed into a big ball of heads that can't even give any head. Then I went and picked up Azur's set from his location, and I did the same thing for Lusat's armor set. Alright, Mazel Tov, we completed Sellen's quest. Now, back to the actual important stuff. When I got to the Mimic Tier fight, I summoned Tyrone to help me against the Mimic Tier because I thought that would be funny for a copy of myself to help me kill a copy of myself. Now, me and Tyrone were the only ones to find it funny for the first part of the fight because... So, I had a close call because I almost got wiped out by the Moonveil, funnily enough, and then I decided to be a little bit more annoying and spam Star Shower, and, you know, eventually, it was just gonna happen, wasn't it? Next up is Regal Ancestor Spirit, who also gets the dishonor of being included in this video as a sped up fight for the simple fact that I could beat this fight blindfolded with a ball gag in. Actually, no ball gag. I'm not into that freaky shit. But, if you are into that freaky shit, I recommend hitting up Ty Taylor. I feel like he's into that kind of stuff. Tell him Flock of Turtles sent you. Anyway, this fight probably saw me use the most moon sorceries considering I was typically far away most of the time, so there was at least one positive. I went deeper into Nokron to fetch Ronnie's family heirloom, and then I found myself face to face with one of the bosses in video game history. Hey bud, did you miss me? I've got something special for you this time. I don't think he was too impressed with that, but I don't care about his feelings. That's a trade I'll take any day of the week. My damage output was disgusting with the buffed R2, but that didn't kill the first gargoyle before the second one spawned in. I barely heard him on my left, and I honestly got really lucky that the first one attacked me, because if I didn't have to dodge that, I wouldn't have known the second one even blindsided me and possibly gave me the 2 attack of Iloa treatment. I was doing my best Forrest Gump impression because I just kept on running, dude. I got enough space to be able to use Star Shower and take out the first gargoyle from a distance, which was a relief because the Twin Blade dude was breathing down my neck for the last 3 minutes. I knew I just had to take my time with the last gargoyle, and I finally had the opportunity to use my sorceries without worrying about a second gargoyle trying to sweep my legs from behind. It's nice only having to fight one boss at a time. Who would have thought? And some may even say that I was in danger of dying to the second gargoyle, but I am not one of those people. Now, I thought I had a little bit of a window to get an attack off before dodging, and I was half right because I wound up getting clipped on the follow-through. Now, after the gargoyle went for his super nerd Naruto attack, a couple of magical sword swings later, the valiant gargoyles were no more. How many times do I have to teach these dudes a lesson? I simply do not die to them.
One-on-one, I'm undefeated, never lost.
Here we go into Astel, where I once again display my quick reflexes and game knowledge. Blue Moon. Now, the fight was going pretty smoothly. I actually kept Astel directly in front of me and stayed square with his head, which is something I've never done before. It was actually very easy because, I mean, honestly, that's the way you're supposed to fight him. Or her. Or it. I queued up Ronaldo's Full Moon just as Astel was about to nuke the arena, and I unfortunately ate one directly to the face. The last portion of the fight consisted of Astel just staring at me with those dead, empty eyes as I sliced away at his forehead with my katanas. I imagine I'd have the same experience fighting against a sloth that's tripping out on some lean because this dude showed zero desire to get out the way. That's Astel down, and now's a good time to let you know about today's sponsor. I'm just kidding, I'm not worthy of a sponsorship yet, but you can still sub to the channel. Up next are Fia's Champions before we take on Fortisax, and I'm going to skip Fia's Champions, and I hope you understand why based on that first kill right there, because that was just brutal. Now, when I went into the Fortisax fight, I was feeling fairly confident because I beat him on my first attempt last time around, and that was the first time I ever fought him because I didn't do him in my first playthrough. But by the end of the fight, I was feeling like if I was going to win, it would still feel like a loss anyway. This is the first time in a long time where I burnt through every single one of my Crimson Flasks, and it was nothing more than a skill issue on my part. I got hit by damn near every attack in his moveset, and I was whiffing a lot of my own attacks too. I kept trying to aim for his head with my charged R2s, but a lot of the time he would just move out of the way at the very last second. In this game, you live by the head, and you die by the head. Same can be said about the prostitutes in Las Vegas, I imagine. In any case, that's Fortnite balls down in one attempt, even though it was pretty sloppy. Gold Godfrey went a little bit better this time. I still got hit by his first stomp attack, but I'll happily blame that on not being able to see a damn thing after Ronnie's Dark Moon exploded in my face. Godfrey wasn't very aggressive, so I took that opportunity by the balls and just beamed him with the Moonlight Greatsword from a distance. I finally got a hang of jumping over his stomp attacks to hit him with my own jump attacks, and the fight was fairly simple and painless, honestly. If only the real Godfrey went as smoothly in this run. Now, on to the King of Kings, Triple H. Just kidding. I mean, it's Morgott. I had you there, though, for a second, didn't I? Now, this fight was sloppier than an NFL offensive lineman eating some sloppy joes without any napkins. This is another one of those fights where I feel like even if I won, it wouldn't have felt like a win. I should have died right here, dude, but I got really lucky. The good thing about Morgott is that his phase transition is just free damage. That's literally all it means. My god-awful reflexes also means free damage for my enemies. I decided to lean more into my sorceries later when there was more of a distance between us. Not like the distance between, like, me and you, I mean, like, me and Morgott. And Star Shower came in clutch for me here because that's exactly what I used to put the nail in Morgott's coffin and damn him to life in purgatory in these forsaken lands between. Next up is the mountaintops of the Giants, and I decided to go to Castle Sol and get the Nile fight out of the way first before going to the Fire Giant. I almost died a couple times early on in the fight because Nile started attacking me with his summons, which didn't really happen to me before. Usually he'd just stay in his starting spot until the summons died, but the game felt like throwing me a curveball, I guess. The fight sped up by 400% again because it was exactly like all the other ones that had been sped up by this much. It was boring, repetitive, and the biggest challenge for me was staying awake during the whole thing. I used all my healing flasks again, but I never felt like I was in danger of dying. It's ironic for me to say that, but I was only getting damage when I would get caught with his follow-up after his Super Mario jump attack. In the end, I just had to play the punish windows well, and I wound up being an Nile on my first try this time around. Now, up next is Mr. Long Tan and Handsome Fire Giant, where I got burned alive on my first attempt. I deserve that. I was playing like shit. The second attempt went a little bit better. I was rusty, that's all. I just had to shake it off. I used Ronnie's Dark Moon to lower his magic resistance a little bit to set myself up for some charged R2s. I have no idea what the Fire Giant's resistance to Frostbite is, but that didn't stop me from trying to use a duelist Moonblade like the special boy that I am. This dude kept running away from me like a scared little biatch for half the fight. Come back here and fight like a man! Now my Moonlight Greatsword buff ran out, so I resorted to jumping heavy attacks for a brief second. My spidey senses started to tingle, and I narrowly avoided getting my ass burnt to a crisp. With one more hit, I got him down to his second phase, and then I got behind him and I started spamming Star Shower, which probably wasn't the smartest move in the world considering it was doing like no damage. The Fire Giant apparently never skips back day. Alright, let me just buff this again. Oh, you all thought I was gonna get hit by that, didn't you? Nah, not this time, baby. I'm too nice to get hit by that garbage. At the end of the day, some damage is better than no damage. I may or may not have almost gotten blown up here, but I'm cool. I definitely wasn't panicking. After I got flattened like a Cracker Barrel pancake, I just so happened to get flattened again. I'm so close. God damn it. I'm sorry, but how the hell was he still alive after that hit? I have no idea how the hell I didn't die in this sequence. I whiffed an attack from 2 feet away, I was 2 feet away from getting swatted into oblivion, and then I almost rolled into the Fire Giant. But almost isn't good enough to kill me. I finished off the Fire Giant, and possibly cut off his nutsack in the process. But it's not like he's gonna need them where he's going anyway. Before I went on to Fire Missoula to take back my foreskin from the Godskin duo, I decided to head into the Leyendell sewers and rob the Dung Eater of all of his drip and his sword. Blackguard Boggart sent me. I never looked forward to fighting the Godskin duo, but, I mean, it could be worse. I could be doing like a fist or a bow only run or something like that. Into the fight against unstoppable force and immovable object, and my first order of business was to do the classic strategy of targeting the noble and then worrying about the apostle later. After only 3 hits, I sent the noble into a second phase, and he just decided to roll over the pillar and just, yeah. Apparently, I do know my stuff a little bit because I caught him on the pillar second time around, and I was actually able to take him out pretty comfortably. When I was one-on-one with the Godskin Apostle, I felt like I was playing basketball against a 7-year-old. I would use Ronaldo's full moon and he'd react by trying to throw a fireball, but the fireball would just get swallowed up by the moon. I really like that added effect, man. I have a lot of respect for that after this run. I took a gamble and I went full aggro, and it paid off big time because he just died. I was confused when the Apostle respawned after I just got done showing him who his daddy was, and luckily for me, he has the IQ of a tree stump because he did the same shit he was doing before. Once the Noble was back in, it was game on and I decided to play patiently. It's not hard to make that decision when your first order of business is trying not to get your fly-ass cape burned off of your back. I was just taking my sweet-ass time and chipping away at their health with Star Shower. This fight is not something I want to have to repeat. Risky moves are meant for risky reels, which I don't even know if that's a thing in Fortnite anymore, honestly. Eventually, they moved pretty close to one another and then a light bulb went off on my head. With a couple swings of Adula's Moonblade, both of them got damaged by the AoE, and that gave me a first attempt victory against the Godskin duo. This time is really special because I didn't use the Mimic tier unlike in my first playthrough. Almost as special as that time I got a 98 on my calculus test in my senior year of high school. I decided to fight Dragonlord Placidusax after that, and when I stop and think about it, Dragonlord Placidusax sounds like it was definitely someone's username on World of Warcraft or some shit back in the day. Now speaking of which, I wonder what the world's greatest freakout kid is up to these days. Do you guys think he still tries to shove remotes up his ass when he gets angry, or do you think he graduated to something else? Like broomstick handles, or perhaps even
Stiff cocks.
I was doing alright against Dragussy Lord Flaccid Dusex to start out with. I didn't get hit until after I got his health down to below a quarter way, and then I made a little boo-boo and got mollywopped in the chin by one of his lightning claw attacks. I triggered his second phase, which basically meant I was doing the do not get one-shot challenge, and I just waited for an opportunity to get behind him so I could clap them 8,000-year-old dragon cheeks. I also had no idea what his status resistances are, and I still don't, so I was spamming Adula's Moonblade like the intelligent boy that I am to try to proc Frostbite. In any case, I was at least doing magic damage, which is cool. I must have had the power of God and anime on my side because I was struck down 3 separate times from lightning, and I don't know how I was still alive. Honestly, I was nothing more than sweaty and a bit nervous. To make matters worse, I also got clipped by his Godzilla breath and I had no healing flask left. But that did not stop me because I'm either very brave or very stupid. What was the worst that could happen? I could die? I would just respawn afterwards. You can't kill me, dude. That's not how any of this works. Now, being so low on health just let me play the freedom that I didn't really have before, and I'd honestly be lying if I wasn't doing the old gamer lean, too. I think I want to start calling all those energy drinks like G Fuel and Gamer Subs gamer lead from now on. That was a close fight, but a damn good one. Ah yes, Malekith. A boss I still have not gotten down yet even after playing through the game 3 times now. It wasn't pretty by any means, but after several attempts, I eventually got the job done even if it wasn't very satisfying. Kinda like the time where you were so desperate that you took home that 2 out of 10 bottom feeder from the bar. Something is better than nothing, but sometimes that something makes you wish you had nothing instead. Look at me trying to sound all sophisticated and shit. I don't think it worked. Speaking of which, this fight wasn't very sophisticated because I was just basically playing like an idiot for the entire time. Now, eventually, I got Malekith down to his second phase, where it was just a case of, do not be stupid that often, and you will win the fight. I still feel like the second phase is a little bit easier for me to understand. It's a little more predictable, and I just understand the moveset a little bit better. I was doing the same shit that I was doing against Placidusax, and I was just hell-bent on trying to get a Frostbite, dude. At this point, I felt like I cared less about beating the game and more about just trying to see a Frostbite animation again, because I hadn't seen it in so long. In the end, I leaned very heavily into the Moonveil's Ash of War, as people tend to do, honestly. And then I sent Malachi to the Shadow Realm with the power of the moon. Oh my god, that was a weird dream, dude. All them dragons and shit. Malekith. What was that all but? Ah, shit. I know I shouldn't have moved to California. I decided to do Rykard next, and your brain may barely be able to keep up with the fight in all of its 400% sped up glory, but that is a sacrifice that I am willing to make. This video is shaping up to be too damn long, and I do not feel like going back and speeding up the first few boss fights. But I think from now on, I'll at least speed them up to like 200% in the future. It took me a few tries to beat him this time around, because on the first couple tries, I actually tried to attempt to beat him using only my sorceries and the Dark Moon Greatsword, and let's just say that didn't go too well. It went horribly, in fact. I don't think I got the God-Devouring Serpent to less than 50% of his health. Once I got to the real fight against Rykard, it was pretty much smooth sailing after a couple hiccups early on. Sure, I got hit once or twice, but then I just laid into him with the Serpent Hunter, and I had him stun-locked a little bit. Either that, or he was just so taken aback by my gorgeous flowing cape and my stunning physique that he couldn't find it in his heart to lay a finger on me. So that's Rykard. Pretty simple fight, even though it took me a handful of tries. On to my favorite boss fight.
It was at this moment that he knew. He fucked up.
After I eliminated Gideon from playoff contention, I was having the absolute worst time of my life against Godfrey, and this is going to be something that I segue in a little bit later in the video, but let's just say there was gamer rage, and I think I probably experienced all 5 stages of grief throughout this fight. So the obvious thing for me to do was strip myself of all of my armor and clothing, because I just said fuck it at one point, honestly. Maybe light rolling will help my dumbass dodge these attacks.
Derek, why'd you take your pants off?
My balls was hot.
I understand.
Light rolling did not help me dodge everything. After about an hour straight of rising blood pressure and resisting the urge to plant my fist through my monitor, I caved in on a moment of weakness and I summoned Tyrone to help my dumbass out against the boss that I honestly should just be able to beat on my own at this point. It also didn't help me that I also just wanted to get the run over. I'm not gonna lie, I was getting a little bit sick of the game at this point, but more on that later. So I'm gonna skip over most of the fight. I promise that from now on, I'll just suck it up and I'll learn the boss's moveset instead of worrying too much about getting the video out. But I'm gonna lie, it's kind of hard not to worry about getting a video out, especially when it's just purely down to a skill issue in the video game and not being able to beat a boss. I hope you guys understand, you know, I do want to, you know, sort of play the game normally, like not using summons. I also enjoy making videos and getting the videos out, so it's like a double-edged sword, you know what I'm saying? But anyway, let's not get too far into my business decision. Let's just get into me not being a scrub and killing Moog on a single try. That's the first time that that's happened for me. Now that we've established that I am not completely awful at this game, let's get into the Loretta fight where the real boss is the 2 battle mages that are stationed outside of the arena. This fight was a little weird because I sort of had it under control, but I also didn't at the same time. That's a nice bow you got. Psych, dickhead! Oh, Moonveil, where would I be without you? Yeah, the fight was mainly just me getting some chip damage off with Transient Moonlight for the most part. If I wanted to be more successful, I probably could have stayed closer to Loretta's horse, but, you know, I don't really understand the hitboxes from her halberd sometimes, so I'll just, like, eat attacks to the face. I can handle man-to-horse combat every once in a while. On to Millennia, where you're never gonna guess who made another appearance in the Flock of Turtles corner. Yeah, I'm not gonna lie, Millennia still owns my bitch ass at this point in my Elden Ring experience, and it doesn't seem like it's getting any better. Sometimes it seems like it's only her Waterfell dance that can touch me, and other times I wind up dying to, like, her most basic attacks. In my next playthrough, I'm just gonna buckle down, and I'm just gonna learn this shit out of Millennia and Godfrey, dude. I don't care if it takes me like 100 attempts on both of these bosses. I just want to do what I heard Gino Machino say in one of his videos, and that is to learn and then win. Anyway, when her second phase kicked in, I knew it was probably going to be the one because Tyrone was still kicking with a lot of HP. I had a lot of HP flask left myself. And in my attempts where I did get Millennia down to her second phase, I always took the opportunity to use my full moon sorceries to lower her magic resistance and to build up Frostbite when I use Ronnie's Dark Moon. I mean, it's like I said in the start of the video, I think after the Godric fight, I don't think I procced Frostbite a single time. Now, just as Tyrone met his untimely and yet expected demise, I managed to break Millennia's poise with Adula's Moonblade of all things, and I got a huge riposte, which ultimately put me in a great position to win. I mean, of course I'm going to win with a frickin' Mimic tier, dude. Now it's time for me to lay a beat down onto Radagon's bitch ass. It took me like 10 tries, but I eventually did lay a beat down onto the most famous cross-dresser in the lands between. If you're new around here, or you're seeing one of my videos for the first time, in my first playthrough I got stuck on Radagon for like 150 attempts, so I can basically like do this fight with my eyes closed. But what that did do for me, even though I was like struggling for a month, it humbled me enough to the point where I just had to practice exactly what I was preaching about Millennia and Godfrey earlier. I pretty much knew what to expect from Radagon, and I'm at the point where if I have to use more than 2 healing flasks during his phase of the fight, I feel disappointed in myself. I was feeling loose like a silly goose, and I was ready for the Elden Beast, and I felt like nothing was going to stop me on this attempt. I also tried to make it a point to use all of my sorceries at least one time in the final fight, because it would just be like one of those things where like a character in an anime or a movie uses like every skill they've used on their journey in order to conquer the toughest challenge they've faced up until that point. I thought it would be kind of cool. The only thing I don't like about Elden Beast is that he runs away like a scary little bitch boy after like 3 hits. I've seen 12-year-olds in the basketball court take more punches than that, but I guess Philly kids are just built different. Come to think of it, I think the Elden Beast is also in the same category as Radagon by now, because I pretty much have all of his moves down except when he just like spams 9 things at once. The only thing I can't really dodge is Elden Stars and then his Sacred Relic Sword, Ash of War. Now at some point I ran out of FP and whipped out my second katana, not my dick, in order to lay a samurai-style smackdown onto the Cosmic Tadpole. And one more thing I want to mention as a tip for anyone that's like new to the game or hasn't thought about this before. I put the Crimson Bubble World here in my Flask of Wondrous Physics, so when he would go to use the Elden Stars attack, you regenerate HP for a very short time, unless it's like physical damage when you take attacks, so that's just something I want to throw out there. It's perfect for this situation. Now, it looks like the Elden Beast will have to do some more sparring and get some lessons under his belt because I carved him up like a Thanksgiving turkey. And I don't know why it said God Slain on the screen because as far as I was aware, I don't remember dying on that attempt. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is a wrap. And I hope that I have answered the question with yes. You can, in fact, beat Elden Ring using only the powers of the moon. Shit, I mean, if you wanted to, you could probably beat this game using only your fists and Donkey Kong bongos as a controller. That was pretty fun, and I enjoyed the theme of the build, but I want to just elaborate more on what I briefly touched on in some parts of the video. And I did talk about it in depth on the channel update video that I just posted, but it seems like I still have no idea how YouTube works because nobody friggin' watched that video, so I guess I have to repeat myself. I'll make it short and sweet. Basically, during the playthrough, playing Elden Ring just felt like a chore to me. I'm not gonna lie, the game just felt like I didn't want to do it, and I felt like I was forcing it just to get a video out. Not in every part of the game, but like a lot of the game, especially like the middle, doing like Fia and Ronnie's quest, you know? So I decided that I'm gonna take a little break from Elden Ring and play some other games and make some other videos because I don't want to feel like I'm phoning it in, and I don't want to play the game just to get a video out of it, you know? It started to feel that way a little bit, and it's not a feeling I want to have because I want to have fun. I don't want my creative process to feel forced, and, you know, that's just the way it is. But fret not, I have my build for New Game Plus 3 planned out, and I already have my next video idea planned out. So if you're a fan of Pokemon, or at the very least of Pokemon Nuzlocke, FromSoft games are naturally challenging, Nuzlocke make it artificially challenging, and I hope you guys can connect the dots. So that's all from me for today. Thank you for watching the video, and thanks for the continued support. I've been Flock of Turtles, you've been amazing, and I'll see you in the next one. Take care of yourselves, guys. I'll see you later.
My fair consort eternal.